a subject that is kind of tough today. And I want you to sort of take a journey with me. And the journey that I'm going to talk about is my journey, actually, through the work and through the process of who's a refugee, how do refugees move from their country of origin to a neighboring country or another country, and how do we bring them to the United States to support them? That is the conversation we're going to be having today. Are you okay with that? Okay, cool. So I want to start by saying, if you had 20 minutes to vacate your home right now, what would you bring with you? Anybody? Comfy shoes. Why is that? Good point. Comfy shoes. 20 minutes, that's all you have. What would you bring with you? And you will never see your home again. You will never see Ohio again. And you will never see the United States again. Your entire family goes east, west. Everybody runs to a different direction. What would you bring with you? Financial, some sort of, right? Anybody else? Photos? No pets? No kids? Passport, travel document, some sort of way for you to be identified. How about all your degrees you worked your rear end of all these years, right? When you go to a different country, how do they know you're an educated person? These are not things that I'm just saying to you. These are the reality of the people that we welcome. And some of you have had grandparents, parents who have done the same thing, I'm pretty sure. So this is what we're going to talk about today. But first, I want to see how this works, everybody. This is the clicker, right? Yeah, can you show me how to? Oh, down. Okay, cool. So after World War II, the world have decided to say, enough is enough. We are going to protect human beings who are suffering. Geneva Convention of 1951, the world decided to protect people who are being persecuted based on these six pillars of, basically, if you are being persecuted because of your race, your religion, who you are, nationality, and if you belong to a political or social group, and if the government is systematically wants to hurt you because of these things, you are qualified as a refugee. We decided that in the Geneva Convention of 1951, right? So I just want to set the stage of what is a refugee versus what's an immigrant. A lot of people get confused about those names. Asylum seeker, right? You've heard that before? Undocumented, have you heard that? Right? All these things could be or may not be the same, but a refugee is somebody who can prove, without reasonable doubt, that these are why they've been attacked. And if you can prove that, the world has agreed to protect you, to help you, to sustain you, to make sure that you're okay. So 84 million people are on the loose today based on because of what I just described to you, because of their religion, because of their nationality. 84 million people have been attacked because of that. Just imagine, 84 million. That's the population almost in the entire Midwest of the United States. Anybody can take a wild guess? Canada. Are you Canadian? My wife is Canadian, so she always says, Canada for everything. So, anybody else? Canada? Anybody else? United States. Who said United States? You're American, I can tell. United Kingdom, Germany, and Poland. Mexico. Way off. Well, not way off. Somebody said Germany. So Iran, 3.4 million refugees are just sitting there waiting for them to be rescued. Imagine in Iran. Just imagine that for a second, right? And second, Turkey. Germany and Colombia are tied. And Pakistan is one. So one European country, and we all think, right? Europe, America, all these countries are welcoming. But it's somewhat misleading what I'm showing you here. And we'll get to it later, because there's a difference between resettlement and I'm crossing the border to another country. Some of these countries have the problem right next door. So people are fleeing to protect them from the other side. Does that make sense? This photograph I have taken in the border of Greece and Macedonia in 2006. I was doing a story about the Yazidis. Yazidis are a group of refugees who are from Iraq. They're not from the Abrahamic religion, so they're not Muslims, Christians, or Jewish. They believe in energy and the sun and what have you, and they've lived in Iraq, and they're related to the Kurdish people. They called the Yazidis, and they lived in Iraq, and Saddam and everybody else said, no problem, you guys, as long as you don't participate in my ways of life and politics, you guys can be your own religion and be living comfortably. Well, ISIS came, and they said you have to convert. 2,000 plus years they have not converted. Imagine they're just going to convert for ISIS. So the first 21st century genocide happened on our watch in 2015, 16, and what have you. And this is the people, they fled from ISIS. They went to Turkey, and then they took boats, and they end up in Greece. And I was doing the story about the Yazidis following the genocide that we said never, never again, many times, right? And this is still happening to the people. So this is their tent. Those mountains are the border there. So that's Macedonia on this side. This is Greece. So if I told you this is Europe, would you believe it? Right? The culture, democracy, Greece, when you hear of it, this is how the people are living in Europe right now. 36.3 million refugees worldwide. The number that I gave you, the 84, was people who fled their countries. These people have been registered by the UNHCR, registered. They have the official registration. They are actual refugees. These are the numbers. The first people that get punished, get hurt, get abused, are women in any war and any time in history. Women are used as a weapon to make sure you demoralize the other. Sexual violence, rape, and what have you happens to women. And on top of that, children are also the highest. So when people flee their country, they go across to another country. So for example, if we fled the United States, we end up in Canada or Mexico, that's officially when we become an actual refugee. Before that, we're an internally displaced person. That means we haven't crossed an international border to become a refugee yet. So this is what a refugee camp looks like. In other words, every country that I ever visited where refugees are, I've never said, oh, this place is nice. It's the worst place. Either it's desert, it's either frozen, it's the worst conditions that any country to punish people, whether it's Kenya to Somalis, whether it is Greece to all the other refugees coming in. We always, as any country, will hold refugees the worst conditions that there is. So I just wanted to show you what a refugee camp looks like. When you guys woke up this morning, how many steps did you take to go to your bathroom and get water and what have you. 5 steps, 10 steps. Imagine walking for half an hour just to get to water, a bucket of water. And my favorite is how refugees are genius in how using a baby stroller to haul more water. When you made coffee this morning, you just went click, and you just got fire, right? Imagine walking hours and hours getting firewood in the middle of cold weather and cutting it and burning it for fire use. This was World War II ammunition depot, this location where the UN, Greece gave them the Yazidis to be housed. Zainab, her sister, and many of her cousins, female cousins, were sold as slaves, as sexual, from the ISIS terrorists. And she has many families who have been killed right in front of her. And she was sharing the story with very emotion, but she was sharing it, telling everybody, share my story. This is the condition, ladies and gentlemen. It was 0 Celsius, 32 Fahrenheit. I was cold, but that's how they lived. But I have a US passport, I could just fly back and be comfortable. This is 20 years. This is how the people live for a long time. This is a 4-minute, how are we doing on time? This is a 4-minute short documentary I have done about the Yazidi people who are fleeing from, as I told you, from Iraq, coming to Greece, and how they fed up with the refugee camp. I just wanted to show you. And what's fascinating about refugee camps, has anybody been to a refugee camp, by the way? People who have the least give you the most. Every time I've ever been to a refugee camp, the amount of sugar they have, the little bit, oh, come on, Tariq, come sit with us, eat. I'm like, no, this is all you have. I'd rather give you more. No, we don't want anything. Just tell our story. And so this story that I'm about to show you, he talks about the frustration of being a Yazidi in Greece, how nobody pays attention, how the world forgot about them, and how it's a shame on the world to not pay attention.
جيت أدور على سلام، هربت من الموت. أدور على أمان، على سلام. أريد أعيش مثل العالم. كان في أمان، في سلام.
كنا مرتاحين يعني.
ايه. بالنسبة لليزيدية بعد ماكو راحة بالعراق، مستحيل واحد يعيش بالعراق. آلاف السنين بدنا نتقاتل على مود هذا الدين، تريد نعوفه؟ مستحيل هذا. ضحينا بكل شيء على مود نحافظ على ديننا، يعني بأوروبا تريد نعوف ديننا؟ مستحيل هذا. ما نعوفه أبدا. حتى إذا ظل يزيدي واحد بالعالم كله ما يعوف. ما نعوف ديننا. تظل انت مثل ما انت شايف. اكو واحد هيك يعيش. مش بس صعبة، احنا بالسجن، معتقل هذا، بس معتقل مفتوح.
حبس.
هنا على المعتقل. احنا ما جينا دا نظل هون، احنا جينا دا نطلع.
مكان يعني افضل، مكان نعيش فيها، مكان نستقر فيه، يعني نشوف نفسنا،
نعيش مثل الاوادم،
يعني نشتغل، نفتح لنا بيت، يعني اللي هيك شغلات. بس شو صارت قصتنا، يعني صارت هيك. حد يعطيك جواب وما حد عطانا لحد الان كلمه واحده يعني مفيده انه فيها كلمه، يعني كلهم يقولون ما بعرف. يعني تسال الوزير يقول ما بعرف، تسال ضابط البوليس يقول ما بعرف، تسال ابو البلديه يقول ما بعرف، تسال مين يعني
ما حد ينطيك
تسال
جواب صحيح.
يقول ما بعرف.
هذا اوروبا، هذا وضع اوروبا. هسه عايشين باوروبا احنا. رجعونا 100 سنه لورا.
They brought us back 100 years. That stuck with me heavily. And the look that he gives me, right? That look that says, tell my story, and I don't really care whoever gets angry with us. The average refugees, 20 years. And I'll tell you why it's 20 years, but it is 20 years. Just imagine, 20 years of what you saw. Small tea, little burner, kids. You see how the child was strapped to the bed from the cold? Just imagine. This is happening today. This is not Second World War. This is not Europe at its worst. This is now. This is what's amazing. All right, so this is what I want you to answer for me. Which country do you think has the best resettlement, or offer resettlement? So the answer you guys were answering earlier, this was it, right? The United States is the largest refugee resettlement program in anywhere. This country welcomes more refugees than any other country on the planet, by far. Resettlement we're talking about. People coming in and living here, not I escaped to America and I'm staying and I'm hiding here. No, I'm talking about the resettlement program, which we will discuss in a minute. After World War II, Europeans were coming here, sort of, I have a cousin here, I have a friend here, I just want to immigrate here. Those are the kind of ways in which. After the Vietnam War, the United States decided to say, enough is enough, we have to have a framework of resettlement. And so President Jimmy Carter, that administration, decided to do a framework and decided to do a system that for people to arrive here in the United States to be protected. And so there you go. Before that, people were coming in any shape, students, protection, people who helped the US Army in Vietnam. There was not a system in which people were coming here, but now there is a system. And that system is the Refugee Resettlement Program through, so this is so remember I told you 20 years? So first, you seek your claim to United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. And United Nations will investigate, make sure your claim is accurate, and then you go through a vetting process for the resettlement application. And Department of Homeland Security, again, will do its bureaucratic, and then you'll get to fingerprinting, retina, make sure your kids are who your kids, do DNA testing, all the above, all that bureaucratic steps that you have to take. And then either you'll be accepted or rejected. And then you still have to go through an FBI screening to make sure that you don't have any terrorist activities in the past or you've not done anything. More screening. And imagine if you lived in the refugee camp for 11, 12, 15 years, and now you have to go through health screening. You've never been to a doctor. Would you pass? I don't know. I don't think I would pass, right? And most people, this is the step where the biggest problem is. Tuberculosis and all these other diseases, you're not going to come to the United States unless you get cleared. And also, while you're getting cleared, you have a short amount of time. So your application, it's like another year they'll postpone it till you get cleared. But if you're not clear within that 10 months or 11 months, your application can expire and you go all the way back to the line again another 20 years. So it is such a system. And then you get a IOM, International Organization for Migration, does your travel plans. And if you have 4 children or family of 5, family of 6, your plane ticket will be around $6,000 or so, or $7,000. You have to pay that money back. It's called a travel loan. There's nothing free in America. You got to pay it back. Can anybody guess this? Say it again? 10 million. You're a very generous man. I tell you that. So for those in the back that cannot see, in 2008, the government, the people who lobby or the people who support refugees said to the federal government, to the Office of President, we can welcome 80,000 people. And the president said, sure, but 60,000 actually came in. 60,000 and change. Who was the president in 2008? Obama? Somebody said Obama? Bush was the president. That is right. So, you see, it was bipartisan. It didn't matter, right? Most presidents welcomed refugees. That was the thing. 2018. Anybody can take a wild guess? Well, so far in 2023, the question was, this information is great, but how many actually came in? That's what you asked? Oh, 80 million people. That's how many people want to come for a third country resettlement. Yeah, they want to. There's many, many people who want. We're only accepting 0.001%. That's the number of refugees that are coming in. The number of refugees that are seeking to come to the United States versus the one who came in. Those are. But anyway, the point is, this is what the government said they would happy to welcome, but this number actually came in. So in 2018, the government said we want to welcome 45,000, even though it was much smaller. The reality is only 9,616 came in. The reason why, if you look at 125,000 and only 60 came in, even with the different administration, is because the system was gutted. Right? The people used to do the fingerprinting. The FBI folks that used to go do screening, the health screening. There's a system that used to be built before that. It was running great. But when you get rid of people for 4 years, to redo all those individuals and find all that talent, it takes time. So if you're looking at this and saying, well, this is a different administration, why can't they welcome 125? It's not that easy. So the resettlement process, there's 10 large agencies, and clearly from their name you can tell the religious affiliation. So we, as Jewish Family Services, we work with Hebrew Immigration Aid Society. It is the agency that used to bring Jewish diaspora from across Europe and anywhere that a Jewish person was having a tough time and wanted to run from persecution. That's the agency that used to bring individuals. This is the agency that the current Jewish Family Services is working with to do that. So these 10 agencies will meet with the government and will decide how many they can welcome. HIAS has many affiliates, many Jewish Family Services across the United States. They will send us a beginning of the year, how many can Jewish Family Services welcome? We then look at the community, we look at financially, we look at housing availability, we look at job availability, we look at transportation availability. All those things get into that and we come up with a number. Yes, I'm giving you the example of this agency that I'm working with currently, but yes, you're right. Every agency would do that. How many can you welcome? And then we'll decide, based on what I told you, we'll decide this is the number we can do that. If there are many generous people like you guys, we'll welcome more. If there's not, we'll welcome less. But that's how it works. If you're curious about how this system is working, these agencies, the larger agencies, will have affiliates across 50 states, and we'll welcome that. Anybody heard of CRIS, Community Refugee Immigration Services? Their affiliate is Church World Service. Did I get it? Yeah, number 5. Right? That's their affiliate, that's their national agency. For us, it's HIAS. And also ETSS is Lutheran. Is Lutheran on here? Yeah, it's one of the ETSS also has one of the affiliates here. So the point I'm making to you is that's how the system is working. That's how the framework works. So GFS resettlement program is very robust. We don't just do resettlement. We don't welcome people at the airport, house them, but we immediately think about integration. Immediately we think about how can we get this person a job. Because we only have 3 months. The government is supporting this individual only for 3 months. If I took you to Kathmandu today and paid for you 3 months' rent and said to you, good luck, even though all of you are highly educated people, imagine how much stress that would be. But imagine if I lived in refugee camp for 20 years, no education, and I told you, good luck in Columbus, Ohio. The realities are also grim. Refugees are not just, when they come here, life is not as easy as most people think. The struggle continues for many years. But thank God there are agencies like us, this community like you, who's willing to support these individuals to do that. Our staff speaks about 15 languages, from Hebrew all the way to Nepali, to Pashto, to many other languages. If you ever visit the office, it's United Nations. Right? You'll hear Yiddish sometimes as well, which I'm learning quite a bit. So ways you can help. So first things first, the easiest thing is food, clothing, donations, that kind of stuff. Website is right there. There's also, I don't know, sometimes if you have an hour a month, 2 hours a month, you can take a family to grocery shopping. You can take them for their medical appointments. Very simple. It's not, it's just your time. Some of you have been in Peace Corps and traveled everywhere and can teach language sometimes, can help out, lived in abroad, hint, hint. So also you could do a little bit of teaching of English and just grab, hug a family and say, hey, I'm gonna come once a week, once every 2 weeks even, an hour. We're gonna go through all your AEP bills to make you understand how you work, how things work, explain it to you. We do have an app that also can do translation, that you don't have to struggle. I don't have to be there to translate for you. Cultural orientation, how to cross the street, how to do laundry, how to, those little things that you don't think about, we take for granted, you and I, that we could just do naturally, right? We do that. And also, politically be engaged about refugees. When you hear this, dog whistle about refugees are terrible and they came take our jobs and, they bring crime, right? Columbus, Ohio. This was in 2016 or 15, the study that was done, right? It's not even updated, but it's a lot more by now, but it's $35.9 million in purchasing power. This is Columbus and Franklin County alone, $1.6 billion in taxes. This is what refugees brought into your community. If you've ever been to Morris Road, right? All those cuisines, right? Hoyo's Kitchen, and all those things really changed. If you've been to Columbus, Ohio in the late 1990s, Morris Road, and today's Morris Road, there's an economic engine, as you could see. Dublin, anybody lives in Reynoldsburg? Reynoldsburg, the Bhutanese Nepali took over, and they are purchasing homes, they are changing the landscape of Columbus. It's something to be celebrated. After 5 years, refugees become naturalized citizens. It is the best immigration status to have, right? It's guaranteed. If you came here as a job to work at a company, that company could tell you tomorrow, thank you very much, have a good day. If you came as a student, you cannot become a citizen. You have to go back to your country, right? If you became as a spouse, God forbid divorce happens, you got to go back. This status, the refugee status, is guaranteed for citizenship unless you don't commit a crime or you don't cause problems. It's guaranteed for you to become a citizen. Oh, that's another way to volunteer too. Teach the questions about the civic test. Anybody became naturalized citizen? Where were you born? And did you take the test? Isn't that amazing? Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. My wife, as I told you, she's Canadian, and she just passed, and she's like, how do refugees do it? These are tough questions. These first president, American, 1812 war, and there's a bunch of questions that really will startle you. You will know it based on your education, but still, you'll be like, oh my God, what was it? Was it A, B? You'll question it, but you can teach that too as a volunteer in the future. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening to me. I can talk for 3 hours about this subject. I wanted to condense it since somebody took 8 minutes from us earlier. Stole 8 minutes from us. Always stealing from refugees.
Please, you're welcome to ask questions. I might just ask that you use the mic. But I wanted to ask, with your photographs, so you went to that refugee camp. You showed the movie of, and then are a lot of the photographs in your exhibit, were they taken here in Columbus, Ohio? Or that's in your studio? Or?
My partners in crime, by the way, huge shout out to DACO family here. Jason, Judy Oppenheimer, thank you for giving refugees a platform, and thanks for the exhibit. Without you, a lot of people would not know about refugees, and you're the reason why we came together here today. So thank you, the library, as well. So thank you, please. I don't want to forget that. And all the funders. So I don't recall the photos in front of my head right now, but most of them are photographed in Columbus. Yes. All but one. There you go. Thank you. Jason's my agent. Yeah. He is amazing. But all but one, yes. But most of them, I photographed them here in the city. And if anybody visited the exhibit yet? Thank you, by the way, for schlepping all the way there. It's a Yiddish word that I learned. Right. Yeah, so we focused on, we didn't want to always talk about refugees. They just came and they're poor and oh my God, We wanted to make sure that we gave you flavor as a Columbus family to see what refugees. So we've got refugees who just came, that JFS resettled them a few weeks ago, versus folks that are like Sinan, the last photo that I showed you here. Sinan is number one. He was a Jewish Family Service employee, by the way. And can you click back twice? Click back. You have the clicker, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I gave it to you, I think. Yeah, somewhere. Anyway, so Sinan is the number one agent at Coldwell Banker, selling houses in like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he came in 2010. Yeah, Sinan, right here. So I didn't want to just talk about, him. He just got to the United States, he's a poor refugee, but he's making a huge, huge investment in Columbus. He's selling houses that I definitely can't afford, right? So, and he tells me the amount of Dublin and all these bigger houses. So it's amazing to see that. And this is what I wanted to focus on, the refugees, how much from zero, right, dollars when they first arrived, just a plastic bag, 10 years later, right here, right? But if Columbus wasn't ready, and Columbus was not like you all welcoming, this would not happen. Yes, it's the tenacity of refugees. It's the aggressiveness of refugees. It is the toughness. It is what they do, but without a community, without a policy, without a system, this also would not happen, right? It's a two-way street, and that's what we wanted to show in the exhibit, is to show you the expanse, the quickly how much they grow. I hope I answered the question. I hope I answered the question I said, yeah. Her first.
Oh,
How many of the people on the southern border are different from the people who fly in? Are they called refugees on the southern border or not? I'm really struggling with the difference and how people are treated, and those who are accepted and those who are not.
So the question, if you haven't heard, is the difference between the people who are applying for asylum, crossing the border, right, who are coming here, versus the people that we're talking about today, the refugees, right? That's
Who flew in?
Flew in, like the one that we're welcoming?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the beginning, we talked about people who fled war, went to their neighboring countries, and were persecuted. They were being attacked because of the race, ethnicity, political affiliation, and so forth and so on, right? You remember that slide, right?
Yeah, I do.
America then went and took a Department of Homeland Security and people, did all the paperwork and proved these people were refugees, and then America, and then only, put them in a resettlement program for them to come here. So they were vetted, they were fingerprinted, everything was happening already. The people that you're talking about in the south of the border, those people, they just crossed the border and they're applying for asylum. They're saying to a judge, an immigration judge, judge, if I go back to Honduras, if I go back to El Salvador, if I go back to Colombia, I will be killed because of these things.
Right.
Then the judge will hear and say, no, you're lying, go back. Or will say, I believe you, you can stay. But because we gutted that immigration system,
Okay.
and that's where you see the backlog, and that's where you see this theater that is unnecessary, really.
Okay.
It got political real quick, but that is the truth.
Created the problem.
I hope, did I answer? I hope I explained it. Does that make sense? So,
Point to what you just said, though. The asylum seeker, what they're doing is legal.
yeah, of course.
100% legal.
Yes.
To cross that border
Yeah.
and ask for asylum.
Yes, because we are a Geneva Convention signature, and we said to the world, we will protect refugees. Now, when they cross the border, they could apply, as we just discussed, for, listen to my case, judge. And if the judge thinks, not thinks, if the person can prove that if they go back, they'll be killed,
Right.
automatically that person qualifies for asylum. Yeah, and that's what I mean. We gutted the system, right? There's no judges, enough judges. There's not a whole lot.
Repeat what she said.
Oh, sorry. It's currently taking 7 years
Okay.
for a judge to hear your case.
Yes.
In the 1990s, when I came, it was 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I kid you not. You come in, you go to the border, you say, hey, I'm from Somalia. If I go back, I'm gonna be killed. Can somebody? They'll say, okay, stay right here, write all your case. They'll give you sort of a bus stipend to go to your cousin, and then they'll say, come back to this date. And if you don't come back, they're gonna hunt you down and throw you out of the country because you missed it. But, and then you go in front of the asylum application, right? Not even a judge, it was an immigration, sort of a prosecutor, right? They will listen to your case. If they truly believe you, they will say, okay, you know what? And if you can prove, they'll ask you geography. They'll ask you about how long they'll ask you questions about Somalia. If you are claiming, they'll say, how far did you walk? What does a train look like? What tribe are you? They know all this information. And if you're lying and you're not from Somalia, you will not. And then they will, your case, who was attacking you? What militia was it? They have all this information. So you cannot just make up stories. You have to really prove it, right, beyond reasonable doubt that you are the person you say you are. And then they will give you your approval. But if that prosecutor doesn't believe you, they will go again for another hearing in front of a judge, like a court. That's how the system used to be. It was a lot quicker. Either you were thrown out or you stayed. There's no ambiguity about it. But today, I promise you, it is an absolute theater. There's unnecessary all these things to happen. And these people have a right to be here. We said we'll protect refugees. It's a shame that we're not. So you had a question, I believe.
No, I was going to say, one of the photos in the exhibit is, I believe, a female who is in the state legislature now?
Yes. Yes, Munira. That's another thing too. She's, I don't think she's, I don't think she's here. Yeah, Munira, born in the refugee camp in Kenya, came here when she was a kid, just a toddler or a little bit older, went to the Ohio State University and graduated political science, did great, and now she's elected official among us. Imagine that. Born in a refugee camp, and today you are leading us in Ohio. It's great. So thank you for pointing that out.
So, is any part of the government seeking to rebuild
Right. 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 Yeah. What's your name? Yeah. Brian. So Brian asked if you did not hear, and I'm going to make it condensed because Brian is asking really good questions about the differences between the system that is completely broken down, and when system is broken down, people are taking advantage of a system, and the government cannot sort of continue, or we need to come up with solutions because the southern border is completely overwhelmed, right? Building the wall is not a solution. I think, so what I'm about to say, my agency doesn't represent, it's me speaking, right? So I just want to be clear about that. If we expedited the employment application for asylum seekers, your problem will, or not your problem, our problem will completely disappear because there's shortage of labor in this country. And the reason why there's a problem with this asylum issue is because the work permit, in order for you to get a job and take care of your family, also, they locked it. So not only you can't hear a judge, Brian, judge cannot hear your case, but you can't even go to work. So there's an underground economy, and that is what is hurting us. We're not able to collect, right? If you are in your retirement, believe me, you need that people working. I kid you not. Young, working for the next 30 years, and some of them, right, will contribute, but also they change our lives and they will change their lives. So I feel like the issues is not even about immigration broken or not, it's expediting the people's needs so they can work and they can move forward. Microphone.
Sorry.
So I think what you said is looking at the root causes. Do you want to say that again? Because some people didn't hear you. So you want to look at the root causes? Right.
Hi, my name is Jess. I'm an immigrant, live here. And I just wanted to say that we have to look at the root cause. Like, yes, we can support refugees as they're coming here, and we should be active in our community when it comes to policies and intervening in that form. But we also need to look at the root cause. Nobody leaves home unless home is no longer safe. And so when we're looking at the root cause, such as what are happening in home countries, what is U.S. involvement in those countries that is causing people to wanting to flee or needing to flee for safety. And so again, looking at, yes, post-refugee and that, but also looking at the root cause as a way that we can intervene and prevent people needing to flee in the first place.
So I don't think Brian said anything different as well. You might have said it differently, but I totally agree with what you're saying, and I totally agree because nobody puts their children on a boat from Libya to Malta unless home is burning down. So that is a true fact. I just feel like as an American, all of us, we need to have a distinction between those people arriving here are not causing, by and large, there's of course individuals, but by and large, they're not causing us economically any worse. In fact, there's a contribution. If you are a person that is worried about economics, you'll worry, you can sleep, I guarantee you. It's not an issue at all. Culturally, diversity is great. So it's a plus. So I just want us to always think about those things at the same time, but also think about protecting people who are crossing our border seeking refuge. Because Europe, 80 years ago, we were going the other way around. A lot of Europeans were coming to this country and to Africa to protect them from the war, right? So it could go the other way. God forbid. It could go the other way. It's not like a guarantee that we're going to live in this country peacefully and whatever. I don't want to scare you, but it could. But what I'm saying is put yourself in those people's shoes, and then you realize only 80 years ago, your grandparents, if you were from Europe, came at that time, they went through the same process. So it could happen. I know. I was going to talk about refugees. I wasn't going to.
Down here, 'cause
Go ahead.
I think there's another issue, and please do not attack me for saying this, but I think that this country needs to join with others. We seem to take on as our sole responsibility some of this, and we've already got problems in my mind that we are not addressing. So I agree with you, it is the root cause, but is it solely ours to solve? Or do we need to be working with others to make sure that it happens? And how do we do that? Because right now it is a political football. And we're about to get crucified for it, in my opinion. How do we do that?
I'm not dodging you. I am. What did you say? You said we're taking everybody and we're.
No, I didn't say that. We have a problem
Right.
on the southern border.
Right.
We have a problem politically because there is this sense that it is ours to solve. That's what I'm really trying to say.
Ours to solve. Who's the ours? Americans?
The United States.
Okay. If 1 year or the next 5 years, 3.4 million people came to the United States, you will see riots on the street. We're not, the numbers are not even close. So when we see invasion, that is not, it's something we can process. And this is not just this year. It was happening in the 1990s. It was happening in the 80s. This was always happening. Reagan gave 10 million people, you can correct me. I think you can correct me. I think that you're much more expert on the immigrant issues. I'm more of the refugee side of things. Wasn't the Reagan amnesty that gave like 8 million people, like some, yes. Right? You agree? Yeah. So what I'm saying to you is 8 million people or even more, I don't know the number, don't quote me, got path to citizenship by a Republican administration to support these people. It could happen. This is theater. I promise you it has, we're not seeing these kind of numbers at all.
But Joe Blow, my next door neighbor, does not hear that. He does not know that. He does not understand that.
Can you invite him next time? I would love to talk to Joe Blow. Me and you. What's your name again?
My name is Jess.
Jess. Jess and I would love to have him right here. We can explain how much, because I went through the process. Did you come as an immigrant?
I am an immigrant. I'm undocumented. I'm a DACO recipient.
So, right. We're both not born in this country, so.
I also want to just invite, okay, sorry, I don't want to take up too much space, I know I am, but to your point, and everyone in this room, like there's spaces that I may not have that you have access to, right? So if these are things that you are informed and educated on and are able to communicate with others, like utilize your spaces that I may not have access to, right? And so I do think, to your point, if our neighbors are not coming to these things, like how can we build relationships with them where that communication can happen?
You started this. By the way, Brian started this, just so you know. He started this riot. Blame Brian. Go ahead.
Hi. So I do feel that it's not just recent intervention from the U.S., but the history of it in Latin America that is causing some of this. I mean, it's historical, and it's still affecting these countries, which is why so many people are escaping. I mean, it's not like it just happened. And so that it continues to happen. But I wanted to say one more different thing. There are companies in this country that are hiring undocumented people gladly, because if they get hurt, especially the ones like rendering plants and places that are really dangerous, the construction industry, they are happy to have people who are undocumented, because if they do get hurt, they can just say, okay, see you later. And you know, it would be nice if the government stepped in and did something to help those people, and so many of them are very young and they're by themselves.
Did you see the article about Hyundai in southern United States hiring undocumented children, like
It's terrible.
12 years old? Hyundai, the cars that we
terrible.
drive. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's crazy. So, look, Brian is his fault. And what's your name? Christine? Herrnstein. Herrnstein and Brian are the sole people who drilled this conversation, and we're gonna blame them for a long time. Anyway, no, so please reach out to JFS, just volunteer, please, and support refugees, and also support, those who came at other means as the immigration spectrum. So I really appreciate you listening to me. Once again, you had a question? I want to thank the library for hosting us, and definitely DACO folks. Thank you so much, Ms. Oppenheimer and Jason. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. It's Brian's fault. I'm going to blame Brian.